Good morning. It's October 12th. This is To My Liberal Friends. Liberals around the country have been saying they support the Palestinians and oppose Israel for many years. It makes them feel like they're championing the underdog. And as recently as 2 months ago, a Gallup poll showed that 48% of people that identify as Democrats said they support the Palestinians over Israel. It'd be interesting to see what that poll shows today. In the aftermath of the brutal and horrific actions of the terrorist attacks done by Hamas this week, what would that poll show? Would it still be 48%? I would hope not, but I'm not even sure where some of these ultra-liberal Democrats would go. There's been a strong backlash against these woke protesters. At NYU, Rena Workman, the president of the University Student Bar Association, wrote in a message to the group on Tuesday that, quote, Israel bears full responsibility for this tremendous loss of life. This regime of state-sanctioned violence created the conditions that made resistance necessary. Well, Ms. Workman, who is non-binary, and I don't know whether it's Ms. or Mix, she says, I will not condemn Palestinian resistance. Well, the backlash was swift. By evening, the law firm Winston & Strawn said comments profoundly conflict with its values without naming the students, and it rescinded its offer of employment. That means Ms. Workman's out of a job. That same day, the dean of the law school, Troy McKenzie, repudiated the students' remarks. Quote, this message was not from NYU School of Law as an institution and does not speak for the leadership of the law school. So now what we see is these protesters out there wearing masks to hide their identity. They want their names scrubbed from any letter. They don't want anybody to identify how rash and stupid they were. And nothing shows a true commitment by a protester than hiding who they are. That's the same tactic the Antifa thugs use. The backlash is hitting Harvard University as well. You know Harvard is the bastion of free speech, except when a conservative schedule to speak. There are 31 student organizations sent a letter supporting the actions of Hamas and holding Israel entirely responsible for the violence. Well, guess what? On Tuesday, Bill Ackman, a prominent hedge fund manager, said some chief executives had asked for a list of members in the student organizations to ensure that, quote, none of us inadvertently hire any of their members, end quote. So what these brave signers of the letter need to understand is actions have consequences. And when they find that jobs once open to them are now closed, they might start thinking twice of being so rash, and should I say stupid, and start looking at facts instead of their emotional wokeness. Now, if you're paying attention, in June at the City University of New York, a law student commencement speaker denounced Israel settlers as colonialism, which forced the school board trustees to call it hate speech. Bet she's not on the list of any of those law firms. As the atrocities are becoming clear, they flood the media with and some of these idiots are realizing how insane their comments were, and they're trying to backtrack. This insaneness is always present in Congress. There you have some of the ultra-liberal progressive caucus, particularly in the Squad, having several members backing Hamas. Congressman Rashid Tlaib from Michigan is flying a Palestinian flag outside her office, and when asked about Hamas terrorists beheading children, she had no comment. Her fellow idiots, AOC and Ilhan Omar, as well as Congresswoman Bush from Missouri, have backed the Palestinians and now say there should be a ceasefire. In other words, let Hamas slaughter over 1,000 Israelis and then tell Israel, there's nothing you should really do, just turn your back and say, let's have a ceasefire. They're even finding themselves on the outside of even some of their most liberal Democratic colleagues for not condemning this brutal act of terrorism. And the Biden administration is promising all aid to Israel, but they stop short of linking Iran to the attacks. Now, where do you think Hamas gets the funds for these rockets? And now we hear Israel is attacking the routes Iran used to send precision-guided rockets to Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israel's concerned that the Hezbollah will start a northern front war. Biden feeling the pressure to name Iran as a co-conspirator and to block the $6 billion funds sitting in Qatar. And he's getting that from both Republicans and Democrats. The problem the Democrats have is they have too many of these ultra-liberal young kids in their midst, and they heavily populate the Biden administration. Biden's opening limp statements about terrorism never being justified was weak and heavily criticized, forcing them, for political reasons, to get a little stronger. What he should have said, what any decent person, irrespective of his more nuanced views of Middle Eastern politics, should be able to bare minimum to muster is that Hamas has exhibited a kind of savagery and cowardice more befitting a beast than men. Charging into civilian territory, executing women and children at point-blank range, brandishing mutilated bodies like ghoulish trophies to the hooting and bawling of gore-hungry crowds, these twisted acts of barbarism should be unstintly condemned and quickly, And that ought to be the easy part, but it took Biden several days to get there. So Biden faces a problem within his own administration. Last Saturday, the State Department had to erase a couple of statements by brash young staffers on Twitter. They were calling on Israel to refrain from any violence or retaliatory attacks. With bright-eyed young staffers popping off tweets like that, who needs enemies? Disingenuous conciliatory pablum, which is usually Biden's stock and trade, will now be harder and harder to come by as the genocide stands run roughshod over their Senate babysitter, who, by the way, is Joe Biden. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, recommend it to your friends.